This video will be a quick recap on how the West OP11 meta looks. This is the tier list. We can see that the meta revolves around blue purple Luffy, green purple Luffy, and Bello Betty, and this will most likely continue until OP12. Green purple Luffy was the deck dominating the most at the start. It had the most toppings in regionals, and it had the best matchup spread against the decks that were played a lot at the beginning. While blue purple Luffy kept the same win rate and same consistency throughout the month, Bello Betty is the deck surprising us the most. It has, as of right now, 6 regional wins, I think, more than the other 2, and there's even regionals where both the champion and the runner-up are playing Bello Betty. So as of right now, it is the deck dominating the most. The reason for this is that it has an amazing matchup against both of them. Blue purple Luffy kept consistent throughout the meta, and while at the start it looked like it didn't have the greatest matchup spread, or that there was nothing that it won against automatically, there was also nothing that it lost to automatically. And while being a very consistent deck, it basically means that on a good day you can beat anything. And as we see on Japan, blue purple Luffy kept its consistency throughout the month, and while at the start it looked like the matchup spread wasn't the greatest, some of the decks that it lost to have now stopped getting played, while other decks that it wins against have rose in popularity. So basically that means that the entire meta revolves around these 3 decks, and if you want to compete, you want to be able to beat at least 2 of them, because there's no deck that beats all 3. 2 decks that have been rising up in popularity are Bonney and Smoker. These 2 have amazing matchup spreads against the variety of decks around, and both can do okay into the top 3. Smoker has an amazing matchup into green purple Luffy, while losing to Bello Betty and going even into blue purple Luffy. Bonney has an amazing matchup into both green purple Luffy and Bello Betty, but has a very bad matchup into blue purple Luffy. Bonnies have been taking 9 cost Zoro to try to deal with it, but because of Red Rock it's still a bad matchup. Another deck that wins against Bonney is Teach, and while Teach technically is not in the best shape right now because it loses to green purple Luffy quite a bit, people keep playing it, and throughout the entire matchup table you win some and you lose some, but most of it just stays 50-50 except green purple Luffy. Another deck that is very relevant in the meta right now, it's Buggy, and Buggy, it's the first time we're seeing it because it didn't exist in Japan because of the starter decks that gave him a lot of good cards. Now the issue with Buggy is that most of his matchups it's basically a coin flip. The only 50-50 matchup it has is against Teach, and everything else you either are super favorable or super unfavorable. So it will hard lose to decks like green purple Luffy and purple Luffy, green yellow law, Bonney, and almost instantly win against decks like Zoro, Bello Betty, Lucci. So because of this, it's a bit tough to bring it to a 10-round tournament, because while yes, you will win some games automatically, you will also lose some games automatically. And this matchup is kind of influencing the meta a little bit, because depending on if we have a lot of buggies or not so many buggies, the decks that will probably do well in the meta are either the decks that super win or super lose against him. So looking at the tier list again, we have the top 3 decks that should remain until the end of OP11, and then right below we have both Bonney and Smoker, which are decks that with the right movements in the meta could potentially go up to S tier, because they have amazing spreads against everything while winning and losing against the top 3. And then everything else below, it's kind of decks that you can play, they will top sometimes, but I don't expect them to win any regional, or maybe sneak a win here and there. And then you have Buggy that honestly should be at a different tier altogether, because if we have a lot of Buggy in the meta, we'll go back to what it was at the start of the meta, where green purple Luffy was dominating everything because it hard wins against Buggy, and decks like Zoro and Uchi cannot exist. And if we get to that point, then people have to stop playing Buggy because you pretty much lose against everything. But then if there's no more Buggies, then decks like Bello Betty and possibly Zoro or Uchi will start to go rampant, which is where we're at right now, where Bello Betty is dominating everything. So this was pretty much a recap of how the meta developed this past month. We still have 1 month and a half, I think, until OP12, so some things might change, but I think the biggest player ends up being Buggy, and we'll probably go back and forth between Bello Betty being super relevant, and then Green Purple Luffy being super relevant, and then Blue Purple Luffy is kind of in the middle, consistent throughout everything. So thank you for watching. Most of the stats that I saw, they come from both the TGC matchmaking Discord from the ranked queue, as well as the regional toppings from the Eggman website. So thank you for that. If you like this video, leave a like and a comment. Thank you very much for watching.